over 800,000 followers on all social media platforms, and even though he only started in 2016 in real estate, he's at over $230 million in transactions, over 700 properties sold. We're in for a treat. What kind of mistakes do you see most realtors make on social media today?
They don't do it. I don't want to say it's a mistake because it's an obstacle, because I'm grateful to have the ability to have an income completely independent of real estate.
I think, long-term investing, I think Pinellas would be just fine. Buying and selling, investing, primary residence, everything, because people want to be here.
Absolutely.
The podcast being Successful DNA, you got a lot of stuff that you're doing. What is inside of you that has made you successful from a DNA standpoint that you think?
It's being committed to quality, to making sure that the people you're doing stuff for are getting the value out of it.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think it's more from a legacy is, what is her world going to look like in 10 years?
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another podcast of the Elliott Caldwell Podcast on Successful DNA. I am here with my friend, Mr. Tampa Bay. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we have a treat here today. Joe is super special to our community and has been super successful in our greater Tampa Bay community. Over 800,000 followers on all social media platforms. And even though he only started in 2016 in real estate, he's at over $230 million in transactions, over 700 properties sold. So we're in for a treat. It's going to be fun. Joe, let's start with, everybody knows you as Mr. Tampa Bay, but you are Joe Malinowski. And when did the Mr. Tampa Bay come into play? What year was it? How did it come about?
So Mr. Tampa Bay, I actually just launched a little bit, probably 18 months ago. Started that because of the real estate side of things that I was doing stuff with. I've been working with agents, closing those properties since 2016, but I wasn't an agent on those because I didn't have my license. So we had a different kind of agreement, the way that they were just getting to be the exclusive agent for any of my brands. Mm-hmm. So whether it was Dunedin or Clearwater Beach or St. Pete or Tampa, I was promoting their stuff, making them the celebrity of that page. And then after banging my head against the wall for too many years to be like, well, I've closed all these properties. This is what they're paying me to be kind of like the people on the team. Why don't I just have my license and then get the action on the back end when, every other week someone's calling me, hey, that property just closed. Thanks for the video. I was like, well, you paid $800 for that video. Referral fee would have been $7,000. I was like, I'm kind of getting screwed. So built out Mr. Tampa Bay to be more of the house for the real estate stuff, so I can collaborate it with Awesome, but then still pull it off there and keep it all on Mr. Tampa Bay.
It's funny you say that. That's exactly why we got our brokerage. We were, 2022, 2023, we were sending a lot of clients to other single realtors across the country. Yeah. And it's like, hey, if we had our real estate broker's license, like, we can get referrals off of this.
Yeah.
That's why we started STR Realtor Surge, and it's blowing up. That's cool. So when did you get your license?
2023? 24. Beginning of 24. End of 23. I don't remember.
So out of the 700 properties sold since 2016, you started kind of either last year or 23 on those 700 of you being the realtor.
So those are still, I'm still the referral guy of everything. So, I'm still, either associated to the deals, but able to get the action on there. So just been...
Yeah, I love what you do. And I was watching some of your videos in the past and even this morning of the amount of eyes that you get on properties compared to the normal realtor. Talk through that. How successful has that been? And where does that kind of go from now?
So it's, multiple kind of components to it where you see those numbers, which is, I'm thinking you're looking at the Instagram side of things where you see the views and the videos, and, that's what tends to get the sellers excited. Everybody kind of gets to pat ourselves on the back. I was
talking about that, but also the videos you do where you show like apples to apples comparisons of Zillow views and everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, that, I did that because it was, everybody's, you're hiring an agent or you're working with somebody that and, so much more often, like, just because they're your friend or your neighbor, like, doesn't mean they're the best person, but I understand the challenges of that. But, just to make a fun video that we knew we'd get exposure on around, like, look, your agent's going to get you 500 views on Zillow. I'm going to get you 50,000 views. Of like, you can't make a judgment to be like, oh, let's just reduce the price. It's like, well, only 100 people saw it, so maybe we should get more feedback than that, which that landed great. But the kind of contrast between Facebook and Instagram, I think is a massive missed opportunity on Facebook, where everyone kind of leans into the Instagram side, but that's where the marketing side of stuff seems to happen, which obviously I'm everywhere. But the number of views that you see on Instagram is kind of that social proof that we end up seeing, which is why the sellers and even other agents will hit me up to go promote. But traffic's coming from Facebook. Like 100 times the amount of traffic is coming from Facebook, where the videos get a bunch of views, which is lovely. It does drive some traffic over to go clicking through, learning more about the property. But if I'm going to get people to go click through that are more active and like looking at the photos, looking at what's going on, like Facebook all day for me.
And what do you think that is? Is it anything to do with like the age groups of the older demographic being on Facebook versus Instagram, and they're kind of going to be the ones that are buying the home? Or
I think you have some of that. I think you also have like the ease of the native links within the post text, to where, Instagram now even is very heavy on, kind of going back to photo carousels. That's like 5-to-1 right now as far as like amount of engagement and views. So the collages, the photo sharing, that's always kind of been the case for me on Facebook. But just the ease of being able to share a basic link to a property on Facebook, like that just gets a ton of clicks.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have Facebook posts, easy to post a link, where on Instagram it's like hard. Unless it's a story, you can put the link in there, or a link in your bio.
Link in my bio, swipe up, comment this for the thing to get sent to you. Like you're adding, once you add a step, you're just dropped, a massive percentage.
So 2016, you kind of started this, this process and this idea of the marketing channel to help out realtors. At what point, tell us about 2016, 17, and then kind of like at what point were you like, okay, I got something here, and then kind of when did it scale to what it is today?
So it actually, I started everything in 2014. Downtown Tampa is awesome, just to be an idea to see like, all right, well, at that time, we kind of could have called it Downtown Tampa is okay.
Yeah, now it's awesome.
But growing that out, testing, we split test a bunch of different names. My theory when I was, before doing marketing with other types of companies was always around, look, the brand that you're building is irrelevant because people don't know what it is. It's cheaper and easier to build a concept around whatever, like, so for instance, I was doing a lot of stuff with a paleo foods company. It's called Paleo on the Go. They're still doing great, but I was like, paleo food is awesome, for instance. Like, people want to follow stuff that's a theory. They're not looking at brands because you're pigeonholed into only talking about the food you're making or the product you're making. It's cheaper to build something that's a little bit ambiguous. And we proved that, and awesome happened to be the best converting phrase after, I don't know how many we did. We did, I love this. I can't even think of all the ones we did. Whatever, 5, 6, 7 of them, running ads. XYZ is awesome, performed great. Built that first page out, and it was just to showcasing the communities. I had a fantasy that I'd be able to bridge a little bit of what we have in Tampa Bay as far as like Hillsborough, Pinellas. We've got 2 visitor bureaus. We've got 50 different chambers. There's not a lot of working together. Having the fantasy that I'd be able to connect those dots, and that never happened, fortunately. But just started building out more pages, and then after all of, people like the food and the lifestyle and all that stuff, real estate's just an obvious, easy entry. And actually where part of the idea came from was a conversation with an agent. I think it was in 2011 or 2012. I was in Wesley Chapel. Wesley Chapel was farmland. There was 4 communities. Wiregrass wasn't there yet. None of that stuff was there. And this guy asked me, he's like, how do I be the guy of Wesley Chapel? I'm like, just start a page, man. Like, there's nothing going on here. You don't have a lot to talk about. You can easily be the center of influence immediately.
Did he start it?
No, of course not. Yeah. No. He was probably in his late 30s, early 40s at that point. Yeah. It's 2011. No one's, they're not jumping in the social train yet.
And now it makes sense, but then it probably, definitely didn't. Yeah.
And it's,
It's up to you, and it worked.
Fortunately, I mean, I had the idea. I knew the growth side of it would work. Every year, a different kind of income opportunity, sums up from stuff. So it's been a blast. Super fortunate.
And when did scale start for you?
Started everything 2014. It became full-time business in 2016, and just has consistently broken records every year.
What kind of mistakes do you see most realtors make on social media today?
They don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's I don't want to say it's a mistake, because it's an obstacle, because I'm grateful to have the ability to have an income completely independent of real estate. So I can go do all of the fun stuff that gets the eyeballs, so then gives me the chance to then promote the real estate. When you don't have that, and like real estate's what you're pushing on, you got to be a full-time of somewhere, being able to build the audience to then sell the product. That's also kind of been a part of my just ideas and philosophy, where whenever you're going to sell something, it's much easier to build an audience first, test out if they care about what you want to sell, and then you've got, the market research is done. So I think the challenge that the agents have is that uphill battle of you got to be a content producer. Like, you're a marketing person, you're not a realtor. Sometimes you're a realtor, but everywhere else, how do you get eyeballs?
Yeah. Most people don't have the team that you have. Having a full-time videographer is kind of a cheat code. What can others do that don't have the videographer? Like, what kind of tips do you have there?
I don't think you need the videographer. So, I mean, I love my videographer. Joe's fantastic. He's there only on my luxury side of things, though. All of the content
Joe
you
and
see.
Joe?
Yep, Joe and Joe. We go in, everybody's just like, oh, Joe team is here. But that's for Tampa Bay luxury, for the high-end stuff that we're doing, where all of the stuff you see on Awesome and on Mr. Tampa Bay that's got the big black and white fonts on it, that's all cell phone. I've always been like, it has to be fast and easy, or else we can't make it work. So those videos, usually I'll go in, knock out, I'll edit it right there, and then that's good to go, and then send off the photos in a Dropbox. I'll have our VA, I'll be like, hey, here's a bunch of headlines. Just go get those other posts ready, so I always have them on deck. But you got to be able to do things quick.
Where's your VA?
They're local.
Okay.
Yeah. I've done stuff with the people in the Philippines have been amazing. But I'm like, I like to have somebody I'm kind of calling you and bothering you, last minute flip stuff. So
yeah, it's interesting. We have probably 30 to 40 at this point, VAs in the Philippines and Honduras. And so it's been in Venezuela. And so there's a girl in Venezuela. Her name is Carmen. Carmen is absolutely phenomenal. And she is our head of guest communication at this point. And I wouldn't trade her for anything.
Yeah.
And so people think, getting into it, I've heard of a VA in 2022. Never even really talked to one. And then I always had the thought process of the language barrier won't work and whatnot, but they are phenomenal.
I've never had a bad experience. If you're using people from like Fiverr and stuff, you're gonna have a learning curve finding the right person.
We got lucky. I have a buddy that owns a long-term rental management company, and they had VAs. I was like, hey, can you ask them if there's anybody else they know that wants to be a VA? Yeah. And then that was summer of 2022. And Tom in the Philippines was our first VA. Tom's still with us.
Nice.
And then it came from there. Hey, Tom, who else do you know? And then they came. And then who else do you know? And so, which has been good because we haven't had to use any of the recruiting services or anything out there.
I think the tough part is like when your friend's using a VA, you're like, hey, do you have any, no, we're booking them up. Yeah. Like, you found your good one. You're like, all right, they're on board now.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
tell me about Tampa Bay Luxury.
So Tampa Bay Luxury was something we started just this past at the beginning of December, doing work with and having relationships with lots of the higher end places, the Michelin spots and all of that. It fits on Tampa Bay is awesome, and obviously I talk about that stuff, but like from what they want to be, their promotional side of things and the audience that they're looking to attract, it's they're going after different demographics, and they're just going, they're going after an affluent audience. When you're selling a $1,100 dinner, there's not a ton of people that are going to get that. And, me on my phone doesn't do what they're doing justice.
Yeah.
So, Joe and I have been doing a lot of work together for a while, and it's like he's a rock star already, and we started doing that, and, we're fortunate to have a lot of these cool relationships with, Chef Ebby, with the Pont Group, with all of these different amazing brands to where like, hey, this is what we're doing, and here's how we're building it. So all of that audience is being curated through targeting just top 5% of income earners, 35 miles around Tampa Bay. And we're kind of getting a little bit behind the scenes. So it's not just showing off the exclusive food stuff, but we're doing more things. We just did a cool video at Bellevue Inn, like the places that are kind of super bougie that no one really sees because they don't have to market, but it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize like the Pelican is this amazing country club in Bel Air that's been there for 100 years. Kind of showing off a little bit of a different side of Tampa Bay with just a nicer lens.
That's cool. And what's the business model there?
So that's a couple different things. One, it fits in a little bit with how awesome and everything's has always worked around, paid promotional stuff, sponsorship sides of things. But on the luxury real estate side of it, like now we've got an amazing spot that we've built an affluent audience. We can show off the higher end properties to where, if I'm out there having to run around, do my little talking head stuff, being goofy at other, single family homes, you can go do a much fancier single family home that doesn't have, and I don't have to be a part of it too. Yeah. Like it could just be nice.
So that group pays for the service or whatever, and then you budget within that that revenue, the ad program for that.
So a lot of the ad program, like it's only at around 5,500 followers right now. So we've been funding building that out because we wanted, you can't charge that much to get for 5,000 people. But fortunately, everything still kind of leans a little bit on awesome. So we'll collaborate the post with that until we're at like 15, 20K. And then it's like stands on its own, but we also have lots of like med spas and plastic surgery people that want to do stuff. Like they're hitting me up, or like a really nice salon hits me up. And I'm just like, you want to give me a blowout? What kind of promo do you want to do?
I think a blowout will look good on you.
We've done it. It's fantastic. I sparkle and shine. But for these nicer brands and things, again, that I don't have to participate in, where we can have, somebody prettier than me go and do the service if that's what we need to do, it all just gives us another kind of opportunity to take advantage of stuff that's coming in that doesn't really fit it.
How do you go about on those posts and those brands budgeting for ads?
Most of them don't have ads. I mean, most of them, they're paying a fee for us to just come out, get that footage, do everything there, and they're all doing fine organically. Typically what will happen is after a post does great, then I'll tell them, look, guys, your page just grew by 1,000 people. If you want to run an ad on it, like, let's give it a week, let it settle down organically. Spend $200 or $300 on it, and it's gonna probably keep rolling for another month.
So where are you trying to split your time now? Because your business model's changed a little bit the past year or two with you getting your real estate license. Are you trying to just keep all that going, or trying to get more into real estate?
So fortunately, it all just kind of works together to where if I'm going to be in Dunedin for the day, if I'm going to be there, and there will be a gap of time where me going in and shooting a property only takes me 10 minutes, where they're just like, oh, wow, you did all your videos that quickly? It's like, yeah, I don't, it's got to be quick and easy. We go in there, get some nice shots, unless we're doing the luxury side and it's a much larger home. Obviously, that's a bit longer. So just depending on what area of town I'm in that day, I'll schedule to go either have some meetings or go shoot a property or two out there and kind of keep that rolling.
I love the names that friends that visit us coming into town come up with for Dunedin.
Dunedin, yeah. Dunedin.
Yeah. Dunedin.
I never even looked at it until I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess that's just how you would read it.
Yeah,
phonetically.
When we moved here in 2017, I forgot what we called it, but I remember being corrected. But I can't remember what we called it. That's funny. What's the biggest things coming up that you're excited about or growing or anything new?
So, it's a little, I say counterintuitive, but like how the market's changing right now. And this is what I knew when we were going into getting my license and stuff. Like, this is my opportunity time. When market's slower, inventory is higher, agents are leaving. It's just like I'm the only one with an audience. I get to be a little bit more of the guy to where even though, yeah, we'll do more transactions, but when we get out on the other side of it is like the tidal wave. And this is what I saw, 7, 8 years ago. It's like, look, you just have to be the one that's being consistent. Like if you're still the one there doing it, you're everybody's, go-to. The number of people that I have that either come up to me and it's like, I wish I called you. I wish I saw your stuff earlier. I use this person. They don't do anything. Like that's kind of like the typical conversation because, and it's not down to other agents, but like they don't have any tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah.
There's nothing that they're going to be able to do other than put your property on MLS.
Yeah.
Like they're going to spend some money on ads. They don't know how to run ads. Like they're not going to get the same cost per click. There's just not going to be as many eyeballs. We got probably 4 or 5, 6 rock stars that are been crushing it that are around Tampa Bay with their social presence and they're getting a ton of visibility and they do an amazing job.
Yeah.
But the other 18,000 whatever we have here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to get into it, but I'm interested in your viewpoint on even the macro level of the market that you and I both have good pulse on. But I agree with you. So we have probably 3, like our agent locally, Megan, who's our only. We have 2 agents that are strictly like home team luxury realty agents here, and then one in Scottsdale, Dave Cooney. And this is Megan's like second full month right now, and I was telling you before, I think it's 6 or 7 closings that she has.
That's great.
And now we give her the leads, and she's really good at what she does. But
was she an agent before somewhere else, or
no,
this is like
she's brand
just
new.
got her license, ready to
got her
roll?
license. I mean, the second full month. I don't know if there's ever been a first time realtor to ever do 7
closing
closings.
in the luxury side. 7.
But they come from 3 of our main services. Well, one's a newsletter where we probably have one of the largest newsletters in the short-term rental Airbnb community called the STR Report. And we have 2 services outside of that. One called B&B Turnkey, where we find it's kind of Airbnb done for you. And then B&B Investor Academy, which is kind of Airbnb done with you. And so we get all the leads from there, turn them over to her. And she's great, but I mean, but that's all exactly from what you're doing. It's social media presence, where all those leads come from, strictly social media. We run ads to our newsletter. The local market, let's talk about that. In terms of supply, demand, in your eyes, where are we?
I think we were increasing. Yeah, we're definitely increasing in supply.
Yeah.
I saw a headline this morning that they found some condo at Clearwater Beach that they found some cracks in the pillars or something. It's like those news stories where a couple of years ago would still impact stuff. Like now is just like another bombshell basically for that that market over there where it's like, all right, now everybody's already freaked out about storms and stuff. Now these condos, every little nudge we get, is just magnifying that fear. Obviously, people will gravitate to the all the terrible, crazy stuff. But this I think is also we're getting to that time where with all of the development around Water Street and Ybor Side and Gasworks and the harbor, all the stuff going on out there, and obviously all the stuff around St. Pete. I mean, Dunedin has a ton of stuff that this side of town doesn't get as much love, basically, because it's not that major metropolitan. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I've heard Newport Richey is like a place to be now.
Really?
Like they're downtown. I haven't been there yet. I keep meaning to go, but there's
I always thought it was like not safe up there.
I grew up in Tarpon, Palm Harbor area. Yeah. Like you're like, why are we going to Newport Richey? Like that's ridiculous.
That's Live PD. They live in Newport Richey. I feel like.
Who's that?
Live PD, the TV show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have a Pasco, like they do the counties, and Pasco's there.
Pasco's it.
They're never in East Pasco. They're always in West Pasco.
Yeah. I would have imagined East Pasco. Well, I guess East Pasco is Wesley Chat. Like, yeah, never mind. I forgot the border side of it. But there's just so much stuff going on. I know that there's an increasing amount of inventory. We still have people moving here. Stuff's moving. It's just the fear is there. And I think if you've had places, I mean, we had a buddy who his wife they were in St. Pete through the storms, made it out. House was fine, nothing, and they're relatively close to water. And she's like, I don't feel comfortable. And for sake, I was like, bro, you got the spot.
Yeah.
Like, if you're close enough to this stuff and you made it through all that we just did, I'm never leaving if that's my house. So you have those, but it takes longer from the education side with whoever's buying it. We're finding, they've got a lot more questions, and rightfully so. I think things are just taking longer, just cutting through the noise. And
I think it's interesting. There are, I don't want to say the exact areas in Pinellas County to protect our investors, but there's like super, super successful areas of Pinellas on the short-term rental side where you can make a lot of money on Airbnb. And other people know about those areas, right? And so it's interesting. Their supply there is freaking low because all the investors buy them up.
Yeah.
But take Dunedin, for example, where outside of that downtown Dunedin corridor, STRs aren't allowed, there's going to be higher supply. Same thing over, really in the markets where there's not that much Airbnb success going on, Wesley Chapel, Brandon, the Plant City, all that. Supply is going to continue to increase.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some people who are pushing the marketing side of things for their Airbnbs in those areas. They're theming them, like, you got the Friends themes places and the jungle themes and the whatever, they're doing great. They look really cool, but they're also like kind of, a little bit in no man's land.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta drive like 35, 40 minutes to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I could stay someplace much closer to the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely see that stuff, the single family stuff, and all of the development. Let's say down in just when you get off the Skyway, like just north Parish. Yeah, there's a bajillion houses going up down there. So I think that kind of is playing a part in affecting like our growth of inventory too. And you've got so many options. You're like, all right, I can get something a little bit less down there, much bigger.
That's why I like Pinellas County investing, and kind of always will. One, obviously, as it goes for the entire country, there's a limited amount of waterfront properties in America, and so in Pinellas County, if you can find that, you can sit on that, and you're always going to be okay, even with the storms.
Yeah.
That will eventually get out of people's heads, and that was the first time that's ever happened since the 60s, whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean it's hopefully.
Yeah,
whatever we got here.
Hopefully, it was another 60, whatever it is, years. But so I like that about Pinellas County because that'll get out of people's heads. But also being in the peninsula, there's nowhere to build in Pinellas County.
No,
and so people still want to be here. You have favorable, laws and regulations. You have nice cities. You have St. Pete. You can go over to Tampa. And you got the beaches. You got a lot of things going on. The Clearwater Phillies, the Dunedin Blue Jays, and all that. So that's why I like Pinellas. I think, long term investing, I think Pinellas will be just fine. Buying and selling, investing, primary residence, everything, because people want to be here.
Absolutely. It's when you go outside. I mean, Chamber of Commerce. I remember when someone said that to me. It's a Chamber of Commerce day. I was like, what does that mean? They're like, this is why. Like, you walk outside. It's beautiful out. Obviously, we're going to get into a few months of the hotness. Yeah. But I gotta say, I think last year, like the crazy heat didn't even feel like it started until June. And I don't want to say it's getting later, but I feel like even now, like we're not in crazy hot yet, which has been amazing for the last few years. You make it through July through mid-September, and we're kind of back to the good times.
Yeah, it is hot everywhere in the summer in America. I remember
Absolutely.
Me and my wife talk about it all the time. So we grew up in South Carolina. At least here, when you don't really get past the low 90s, even when maybe mid 90s on a bad day.
I don't think we've actually ever hit 100. I have to fact check that, but I'm pretty sure.
And that happens all the time in South Carolina in the summer. You're going to get 101s, 102s, 103s. Yeah. I remember summer of 2012, I was playing baseball. So I played baseball at University of South Carolina, and I was in a summer league up in Chillicothe, Ohio. And it was like a record hot summer in 2012. Was it 2012? Yes, it was 2012. And the field temperature had the turf field, so the black bees in it. The field temperature was like 123 degrees or something.
Man,
you don't get that here, and so we'll never leave.
No. Look, I grew up here, moved down when I was 8 from upstate New York in '92, Palm Harbor, Tarpon area. From Tarpon went out to Tampa. Just it's great. I mean, obviously our airport's great, which you don't appreciate until you come back and you're like, oh my god, this is so much easier.
Sweet.
Yeah,
it's so nice and quick. What's been your most viral video ever?
I think it's when the latte market opened up in Wesley Chapel, huge Asian grocery store, and I just so happened to be around that area that morning, and I was like, I'm gonna go. They're doing their grand opening. And I think it went to 1 million views in like a couple days. And I don't know where it's at now. I mean, 5, 6, 7, 8,
That's
something
random.
like that. Just, yeah, totally. I'm just like, what just happened? Got a few other ones that are kind of like consistently, anytime you do them, they pop, which is so cool. There's a place way out in Lithia called the White Oak Cottage. And it's in no man's land. The Lithia's got like 2 things on it, just basically off of it's not a dirt road, but it's, and I drove past it and there was a sign that said, the coolest store that you never heard of or something like that. And I was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And did a video there and like blew their business up. They were just
cool.
like, what the hell just happened? And that's I think for me the most gratifying part of doing the stuff that we're doing is being able to make that impact in different businesses. You know, it's kind of like, and I didn't realize the power, but the that influence. I think it was maybe 2020, and there's a place in Safety Harbor called Whistle Stop, and I used to go there. I worked at Safety Harbor Spa when I was 16, I was 20, and that was the spot you go get ice cream and shake. I saw somebody posted something about like the city's messing with them. They got to spend like $15,000 to fix this sign, and I was like, screw the city, post this thing, and it went nuts. And I was just, the news is calling me. I did. That was the first like, all right, you have to do a little due diligence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I don't know anything about this. I apologize for posting it if anything's inaccurate. I just like Whistle Stop. And
being the expert at Tampa Bay, all right, let's say you have a friend coming in. They're coming in on a Friday morning. They're flying in the Tampa airport. You're picking them up. They're leaving Sunday night. So you got just over 48 hours with them.
Man.
What are you doing?
Man. All right, this is always a loaded question because there's got to be some context to like, what is this friend's style?
Okay.
Is this friend like
This friend
foodie
is
style, or they want a beach style? They want
Where'd you go to
downtown
college?
USF.
Okay. This is a friend who, let's see, they went to USF with you and they haven't been here in 20, what do you know? They haven't been here in 20 years or 15 years. And
All right.
where are you going new?
All right, so just coming back here, like we're gonna do a little bouncing around just because so much has changed in that 15 years. We're gonna go hit up a little, maybe a morning afternoon thing over in Dunedin, pop around over there, maybe go hit up a brewery, and then we're actually gonna go down to like Gulfport. Gulfport's like this little mini hidden gem that locals have no idea even exists, and it's a cool little downtown. I love these little tiny communities that we have. The same thing with Safety Harbor. Safety Harbor in the last 15 years, massive difference. Some amazing restaurants over there. So actually, I'll actually change that up. I would do Dunedin, then I'd go to Safety Harbor, then we would go over, do some stuff in like downtown St. Pete, walk around there. I don't know if I would do downtown Tampa first or... All right, and to give us all enough thought, here's the actual agenda. Dunedin to Safety Harbor.
You got 2 days.
I got 2 days. Downtown Tampa and then St. Pete. So we would probably switch it up a little, mix that up to where one of the small ones, like a Dunedin, and then Tampa in the evening, and a Safety Harbor, then a downtown St. Pete. Taking around brewery hopping, going over to like Cara and the Parlor House over in Dunedin. Over in Safety Harbor, we're hitting up like Tides and Barfly. Downtown Tampa, just walking around. Like, depends how bougie they are at the time. We're either going to go to like Water Street and do a little bougie bar crawl, or meander around through downtown and just hang out at different spots around there. Spain is still a great spot. That's kind of one of my staple places that they've been there for 40 years. But I got to say, on the food side, man, like St. Pete's, I was a little disappointed when Michelin just came out and did their stuff, and like, they didn't give anybody even like a bib gourmand. They just like put them on the guide. Like Il Ritorno, crazy delicious, but 4-2 is like where I'm going for my birthday.
Okay.
Like 4-2 is out of this world, man.
Dude, I went. It was the best food I've ever had, and me and my wife agreed in the entire life. What was it? Yeah, Juno and the Peacock.
Juno and the Peacock's great too. Yeah,
Dude,
they
it's
do
so
lovely.
good. We live right here, being in between. We're like countryside, like right near the Countryside Country Club.
Okay.
So we're in between Dunedin and Safety Harbor.
Yeah.
So our date nights are, like you said, if it's a morning date day, we're going to Haven House in Safety Harbor.
Nice.
Screaming Jalapeno across the street for lunch. Pisces in Dunedin.
Yeah.
I mean, people sleep on Dunedin and Safety Harbor.
Dude, Barfly has like a $21 lobster sandwich that comes with a side of lobster bisque.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just price-wise. It is delicious, but it is like insanely how that priced out there. But dude, there's so many cool gyms over here. If you haven't gone down to brick and mortar is awesome. Chef Jason down there, and then Nathan over at 4-2. Like these, man,
Cool.
blowing your mind.
The podcast being Successful DNA, you got a lot of stuff that you're doing, and you have a drive inside of you that's unique. What is inside of you that has made you successful from a DNA standpoint that you think?
My wife and I kind of talk about this a lot, and like how our world continues to change, and for better or for worse, with all the AI stuff that we have, it always seems as though we're pursuing ways to automate everything. I think a big part of that in real estate, like even since 2016, everything that every platform's coming out with is like how to automate your call system, how to automate this, how to get people to do this, and the chatbot for that. It's like, you guys realize just picking up the phone like blows people's minds. Like being willing to talk to people, being willing to do the work that's necessary, and having an understanding of that work that's necessary, working backwards to be like, look, I need to go make it. If we want to do this, we got to make this many videos this month. How can we streamline that, do that in a batch, get that scheduled out? So compartmentalizing things and just not looking for the easy way out. Right now the stuff, for instance, that we're doing with the luxury side has a big time investment chunk to it. And it's like, well, we could either do it half-assed or we could just do it right, and then it's going to work. When you're looking for ways to cut corners, I think, I don't want to say the instant gratification side of things that's happening now. I'm sure everybody else is also seeing these videos where, this guy's like, oh, put this through AI, go over to Canva, make an ebook. Here's how you can make 20 grand a month. It's like, you're just selling crap. Like we're becoming people who are not interested in selling something of value. It's selling something that's garbage. And just for the sake of getting this money, to being able to pat ourselves on the back, like I got this, or I have this car. So from the DNA side of it, it's being committed to quality, to making sure that the people you're doing stuff for are getting the value out of it. I could, relate that into the influencer world is, we said 800 followers, like 800,000. Like, where's he got that? I'm like, we just passed 1 million.
Update the website.
I got to go update the website. Yeah. But the ego that can kind of come with that is like, I have 1 million followers now. I should be able to charge more. I should do this. I should. Where it's like, should doesn't matter. If a coffee shop, is like, hey, we'd love for you to come out. Can we pay you to do this, this, and that? Like, oh, I want to, at least $1,000 to show up. It's like, you know how much coffee you have to sell to create $1,000 of revenue for somebody? Or, unless they're a higher end restaurant, like, there are thresholds to what you can charge in any industry. So
I like that. Should doesn't matter. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So we run into that, everybody's biased about how amazing their Airbnb is. And we should be charging this per night. Shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The guests determine what the price is.
I should be able to sell my house for this much. They sold it like that down the street.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's not apples to apples on that house. That house is a pool. You don't even have a pool.
That's a 5.2. Yours is a 3.1.
Yeah.
Why can't I get that much more?
They have 3 acres. You have 0.25.
Yeah.
What are some daily habits that you have that you kind of live by and swear by?
So, I'm 40 now, and you're always, that, say, fantasy of balance. I think obviously balance means a lot of different things for different people, but it's figuring out what's that flow of your world. And from this actually I think relates into a goal setting side of things, where I'll piggyback into that answer. But when you think of goal setting, you're always looking at what do I want? I want this plant. I want this computer. I want this type of thing, where I've learned to use goal setting in a way that what is my perfect day? If you look at what your world is, you probably only have a variety of like 3 to 5 kind of days that are going to happen. You know, if you've got kids, whatever, you've got your day-to-day work days, you got your weekend days, your vacation days, whatever those categories are. What is perfection for every one of those? Like everything firing on all cylinders, you're just floating on air. And how do we make that happen more frequently? How do you pursue that? What are the things that have to take place in order to live that life instead of this, like, you know, I want a car, I want this. Like, you don't want any of this crap. Like, you're going to get it and nothing's going to change. Like, you still have to do things every day that is going to affect your mood. So, you know, to where, like, what's that normal day look like, that habitual day where, you know, I'll get up, I love fitness and working out. I have to, obviously. I'm going to 20 restaurants a week. But, you know, I like to get up before everybody else. I do some writing, a little bit of a gratitude journal. Perfect case scenario, I would maybe do some meditation or something, but usually I'll end up getting up, writing, get my daughter's lunch ready, go jump in the cold plunge, then go to the gym, be at the gym for a while, doing a ton of cardio and lifting and whatever there, wash up and head out. I've got meetings and places to go shoot around like 10-ish. Probably doing stuff until 5, 6 o'clock. Sometimes we're doing evening stuff. Go back, hang out with the family, and chill out, do bedtime with the little one.
Do you own any real estate investments?
I have one rental property just outside of downtown on Columbus.
So one thing, I'll talk through this, a lot of real estate, and obviously, you know, the more real estate that professional real estate people can do, the better for tax purposes. Are you familiar with the rep status, real estate professional status? So you have to have 750 hours into real estate, and it has to be over half of everything you do. It's going to be 50% of everything you do. And so I think it averages out to about 15 hours a week. It's kind of what that matters. So then what you can do is you can depreciate every asset that you buy on the real estate side. And so bonus depreciation should be coming back. President Trump has announced that it is coming back, but it's got to go through the House and Senate and all that. 2020, it was in, and then 2023, it went down to 80%. 2024, last year, 60%, and this year, 25 is 40%. But it's interesting. I feel like every single, like, real estate individual should never pay taxes because they're the only ones that can get that. It used to be a thing in the 1986 Tax Act was passed. Before 1986, anybody could depreciate all their real estate 100%. Doctors, attorneys, didn't matter on their active income. Now it has to be on the passive income of the real estate. But we can talk more about that because we're going down a rabbit hole.
That sounds fantastic. Yes, the tax side of things.
Let's end with this. Your wife and daughter, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for them?
Oh man, so my wife's also an entrepreneur too. You know, she's got a printing company, so it's not necessarily leaving it for her. Yeah. You know, I think it's more from a legacy is how my daughter just is in the world. Like the financial stuff and all that's going to be fine. Like, you know, we've got our investments and all the other things are great. She's going to be set for that. Like her being a competent, functional human being, like her doing that would be like carrying on the legacy. It's like, look, we just need to think, you know, let's think on our own. Let's solve problems. If we can be good enough parents, hopefully she's 7 right now, you know, to get her to the finish line where she's confident as a person, like let her go do her thing. And, you know, it's what is her world going to look like in 10 years? You know, what is that professional world going to look like? Is it, you know, she just gets, you know, live off of her assets and stuff that we've built? No, she's got to go do some stuff, you know? So hopefully the legacy is her perpetuating what her mom, like my wife has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for charities around town. Like, that's cool. I almost hope that she has more into her space. You know, she wants to do entrepreneurial stuff. Hopefully that's the case, but like doing the philanthropy stuff, I think that would be amazing. So hopefully she takes a little bit more off of my wife for many reasons than just business.
I love that, man. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Elliott Caldwell Podcast on Successful DNA. Mr. Tampa Bay, Joe, where can they learn more about you?
Go on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the whole shebang. So Tampa Bay is awesome. Mr. Tampa Bay, all of these different places, you'll find me.
Thanks for coming,
Go
bro.
check it out. Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.